Welcome to Life After 40 Conversations with Philip Blackett. This is a space for honest, thoughtful conversations about midlife without the hype, without diagnosis, and without pressure. Now, if you're somewhere between 35 and 55 years old and quietly navigating questions about your energy, your identity, your work, your faith, your relationships, or your health, you're not alone. Midlife can often look stable on the outside and feel unsettled underneath. This show, Life After 40 Conversations, exists to do one thing well: to give adults in midlife language, clarity, and calm perspective for a season that can often feel confusing, lonely, or silently overwhelming. This show exists to help you feel seen, steady, and less alone as you navigate the second half of life. Now, bear in mind, this is not a self help program. It's not a medical show, and it's not even a motivational rally. What this is a meaning making space. Each episode is a grounded conversation with myself, alongside with leaders, caregivers, entrepreneurs, pastors, parents, professionals, and thoughtful human beings who are living through midlife in real time. We talk about lived experience, not prescriptions, reflection, not instruction, and reframes, not shoulds. Because I believe in this deeply. Midlife is worth living and worth living well. And living it well doesn't start with pressure, it starts with perspective. My role here is simply just to not stand on the stage. It's simply to facilitate conversations that help capable, responsible adults think more clearly about who they're becoming in the second half of life. So, have you ever thought to yourself, why does this season feel different to me? Or why am I rethinking things that used to feel settled? You're exactly where you're supposed to be. And I'm grateful that you're here. So, let's begin today's conversation. I'm really excited about today's conversation because it's with someone that I have done life with before, once upon a time. Our guest is someone who helps high achievers slow down just enough to ask a powerful question: is the life and career I'm building actually align with who I am? Nikki J-E Turner is an executive and career transition coach and the founder of C3 Impact, where she works with leaders who are navigating big inflection points, whether that's stepping into a new role, pivoting careers, or redefining success altogether. What I appreciate about Nikki is that she's not just speaking from theory. She's lived in high performance environments herself. She's held leadership roles in education and advocacy, including work with KIPP Public Schools. And early in her career, she worked in the equities division at Goldman Sachs, where I started my career as well. So she understands both the pressure and the promise of ambitious career paths. Academically speaking, she does bring serious depth to her work. She earned her BA in psychology from Spelman College, her MBA from Stanford Graduate School of Business, and an MED from the Broad Center, now part of the Yale School of Management. Now, that combination of psychology, business, and education really shapes the way she approaches leadership and personal growth. And beyond all of that, she's also a mom of two, which means she understands firsthand the balancing act of ambition and purpose and family life. And in her spare time, she loves practicing yoga, something that reflects the grounded, centered approach she brings to both leadership and in life. At the heart of it, Nikki helps people reconnect with what energizes them so their work, leadership, and life actually feel sustainable and meaningful. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. Nikki, welcome to the show here.
Philip, thank you so much for having us. My gosh, it's almost been 20 years since we started our careers together.
Exactly, right? Man, the time flies.
Time
So
is
I'm really
flying.
excited about having this conversation with you. So happy to dig right in. So the first question I have for you, we did your introduction not too long ago, and love to get in your own words here. Before the titles in the resume, who is Nikki in this season of life?
Yes, I so appreciate that because it's been a lot of work to disentangle my identity from my work and productivity. And so now I can actually answer that. Um, I am a soul that values deep connection and presence to others who are in my community. Um, so a connector, a lover of people and community and culture. I am a aspiring salsa dancer who has found my way to a beautiful art form that has given me so much life and energy. You mentioned yoga, a yogi who is learning to kind of heal my body and mind. I am a Black woman who is proud of my heritage and ancestry and the journey that I have been on and know that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. Uh, I'm a mom to 2 beautiful humans who I get to do life with, who test me in so many ways, but bring so much joy. Um, and yeah, that's a little bit more of who I am in this season.
And that's a lot. That's great. Now, notice is like it was like you said, it was beyond work, because a lot of times people tend to link their identity with their work or their productivity. So I'm so glad you share beyond the work for you. And so
Yes.
when we think about midlife, and I usually characterize it between the ages of like 35 to 55 years of age. Um, when did you first realize something had shifted in your life when you approach midlife?
Whew. Philip, I feel like I had one of these like wake up moments. The universe was shaking me and saying like something, yes. And so for me, it comes back to a moment of burnout where I looked at the external of all the things. I had the job that I had dreamed of in the leadership role. I had gone to the schools that, folks dreamed of going to and had, all of the things. I had 2 beautiful kids, marriage, everything on the outside was looking like everything that I had dreamed of. But on the inside, I was so depleted and so much of a shell of myself
Mhm.
and disconnected from who I was at my core that I just had to pause and say, whew, like, uh, what's going on? Get curious and then reevaluate, say, like, something's got to give. And I've got to figure out a new way of doing this so called thing called life.
I resonate. I went through something similar Thanksgiving 2024 when I turned 40. And it's just like, to your point, it's just like, a lot of what's on the outside that people can see, oh, it's just like check mark, check mark, check mark. Everything looks great. But there's only so much you can see on the outside without actually venturing in on the inside. And that's where the real meaning and purpose comes from,
Yes.
and so I definitely can resonate with that. And when you think about that, Nikki, during that period, what used to work for you that suddenly didn't anymore?
Mm. I think what used to work for me was being incredibly goal oriented, seeing something, setting my sights on it, putting my head down, working hard as hell to get there, and, like, bulldozing my way to a certain extent through sheer will to get to whatever defined outcome it was, and I think that was working for me to a certain extent because I was able to achieve a lot of those sort of external markers of success in a way that I'm grateful for in a lot of ways. Um, that is no longer working for me. Um, because on that path, I quieted so much of what really mattered to me, and I didn't even know that's the tricky part, Phil, but I didn't even know I was doing it. I was so caught up in how everybody else had defined success or how to do things that I had internalized it, and so I was just doing what I thought I was supposed to be doing, um, and it's not working for me anymore again because the amount of self-sacrifice and neglect in terms of my own well-being to get to those goals, I'm not I can't do that anymore, and it's also not working for me in a sense that I've had to come to accept that I cannot control everything, that there is a way in moving through the world that I think just requires a level of acceptance and surrender and flow, and I didn't have that appreciation
Mhm.
when I was younger.
So I think you hit on a key point there too, like self-sacrifice and neglect, in the pursuit of your goals, right?
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people, they're willing to put things aside for a certain period of time. Say, hey, like this is something that's really important to me. I'm gonna cut back on this, or form my schedule around this, and that's or hey, I might not be as social as I once was before, but just for a time period, just for a period of time. And I think from what you're saying, Nikki, it's like there comes a point sometimes where we got to go back the other side in terms of, hey, what is this costing me? And is this time for me to go back to putting myself first? Where you put yourself out there for others or try to achieve certain things, even like you said before, from what other people kind of see as success, and understand maybe there's a different way of looking at this now, and just kind of listening to yourself as far as what's important now versus what everyone else might be sharing with you in that sort, right?
Yeah, and I mean, think that's real. So, a level of discipline is absolutely, I think, required. There are gonna be seasons where you are very focused and dialed in. I think so I wanted to make sure that it's clear that it's saying it's not to say without a level of discipline required in life, but for me, it was the persistent neglect built up over time that was really what caught me up. And you mentioned putting yourself first. I don't even think I had a concept of that
Mm,
back in my 20s. As a Black woman, and particularly the weight and the expectations that are put on us to just be service oriented, hold the weight of the world, put it on our backs, put your head down, you're good, you got this, I got this. Like, and I very much so internalized that. And so I used to think being called selfish was like the biggest insult. It's zero schema for it's okay to center my well-being. And so that's been a huge reframe, just giving myself the permission to say, no, it's okay to center and ground and put my needs first. And then from there, that, continue to do all the amazing things of serving and giving and being all the other roles. But that reframe of centering self first was a big shift for me. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
of course. And I think one of the things you brought up too, Nikki, that is really important for people to realize. One of the myths we try to debunk here in particular for our own benefit is the whole notion that self-care is selfish, right? It's almost in a sense where it's like if you don't take better care of yourself, if you don't fill your own cup, how can you pour from an empty cup? How can you be service oriented and look out for others and put your head down and to do it for an extended period of time if you're not taking care of yourself along the way,
Yeah.
especially from one parent to another. Because we
Yes.
got two youngins here that will grab as much as they can out of you.
Oh, yeah, they're gonna extract
And
it.
and it's just like, how do you do this? And then you're gonna have to do the same thing tomorrow in addition to work and everything else that life has as an adult with also caring for young ones,
Oof.
you know?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
what surprised you the most about midlife?
Hmm. The depth of which I am continuing to learn more and more about who I am. I think I had this concept of midlife, like, I've arrived, I'm really clear on who I am and what matters to me and all that, which I think on some hand was true, but I think now almost feels like a true awakening in terms of my ability to really connect with myself at a core layers without the burdens of all of the weights of expectations and the fears and things that I think we place on ourselves or just naturally as humans to protect ourselves and moving through the world. The ego just kind of it does a lot to keep us safe. And so now I feel like I'm finally able to distinguish like what is mine to hold and what is not mine to hold and go to a deeper level of self-knowledge. And I don't think I realized that that was going to happen because I thought, "Oh, I'm 40," you know? I already I've known so much, but I did think the embrace of that continual learning journey, has been one thing that surprised me. And I'm in a season of a lot of fun. Like, I'm having a great time in life right now. It's not to say that it's not without its complications, because there's a lot of stuff. I think the embracing of, like, life is going to life, period, full stop. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But how can I reclaim that sense of agency and say, "All right, life is going to life. I will be processing all of that and developing tools to do it, and I'm gonna have a really great time." Like, even just
Mhm.
last night, I was out till 3 a.m. and just living my best life, and so I think that I don't think I appreciated that I'd be able to have this now. I think I sometimes was like, "Oh, when my kids are older and out the house," and I was like, "Nope, it's happening now. Like, this is happening now."
I love it because a couple of thoughts come to mind. One is the thought of like, when we were in college, we probably thought like, this is the most fun we're ever gonna have. We're gonna live it up, and it's like you're also thinking in that same time when you're in your early 20s, like how much you think you know about everything,
Right.
you know? And so as we get older, we recognize there's so much we don't know. But in the midst of, like you said before, when you're adulting and life is lifing, you recognize, you know, it probably makes sense for me not to delay the enjoyment of life until I reached a certain age or I reached a certain goal or I reached a certain milestone.
Yeah.
No, like we're going to enjoy the journey along the way. Whether there's peaks or valleys, like one way or the other, if it's raining, we're going to learn how to dance in the rain, And I really admire that where it's just like, absolutely enjoy the night because that's part of living. That's something you're going to always remember. You're going to enjoy being present in the moment.
Yes. Yes, I laugh and think about, like, the walking book of cliches, but you were talking that I am this point, but, like, joy is in the journey. Joy is in the journey, if we're in a position where we can embrace the complexities of that journey and make space for what really matters, what lights us up, and be present in that. I think there is so much opportunity, if we give ourselves permission to be steeped in those experiences.
So the next question, I'm not sure if we just answered it, but I'm just going to ask just
Okay.
in case,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
Um, What did midlife force you to stop ignoring? And what changed once you paid more attention to it?
Mm, yeah. I think it forced me to stop ignoring that I can be the fullest expressed version of myself. I think for so long, I I consider myself a diplomat, a peacemaker, a bridge builder. Shapeshifter might be a little strong, but I could always just dial back or up to meet folks where they are. I had to stop me, and that took it was effortless in a lot of ways, but it also took effort. But in
Mhm.
that, I was ignoring I don't wanna say ignoring, but just not paying attention to what my needs and what I needed in that situation, and so midlife has made me, like, stop ignoring that I have needs,
Yeah.
that I have a body that I need to tend to, that I have emotions that I need to work through, um because, before, again, I was so service-oriented and so externally dialed, but that wasn't serving me anymore, and so, again, that universe moment of, like, "Wake up, figure this out," like, you gotta mix it up, I've gotten that message a couple of different times. So that was the first part of your question, but remind me of the second part. I don't know if I got
So
on that
it
part.
was, not only, what did it force you to stop ignoring, but also what changed once you stopped ignoring it and you
Oh,
paid more attention to it.
yeah. I feel like I'm at this point, and I'm still very much so on this journey, and it's feeling very, present, but just trusting in myself and moving in the world in which is so kind of clear and grounded in who I am and what I have to offer. It doesn't take I don't say it doesn't take as much effort because it's still taking effort because I'm undoing all the learning from before,
Mhm.
but the alignment feels easeful in my body when I'm able to trust myself, center what I need, and move accordingly. I'm not as stressed. I do have moments of stress for sure, but before I would be steeped in prolonged periods of chronic stress, and now I'm able to say, "Okay, like, what's going on in my chest? What's going on in my, neck, shoulders?" Like, the awareness of my body and that as an indication of what I need, and then being able to move through that and operate accordingly has really drastically changed the level of stress that I felt like I was carrying on a daily basis, and it's moving through me a lot faster.
Mhm.
And another thing that's changed, I think, as a result of this reorientation, I'm becoming less tethered to what other people think of me. Again, work in progress, but I very much so was dialed into wanting to be liked and appreciated and for everybody. And I realize now I may not be for everybody. If I'm standing in the fullness of who I am and centering, what feels right to me, I may lose some folks, and that's okay. And I don't, I don't know if I would have been okay with that before, but now I'm like, that's fantastic and it feels liberating. So that's another thing that I feel like has been a byproduct, a change with sort of this new orientation.
That's awesome. And that comes from a recovering people pleaser myself. It's something where, you know, no one no one I believe doesn't want to be disliked, let alone hate it, right?
Right.
It's
Yeah.
the thought of we would love to all be appreciated by everyone, but we can't account for 7 or 8 billion people in the world
Right.
today and what they may feel at that particular moment for something we may have said or done at that particular time. And I love what you said there because the thought is I do feel like a lot of people as they get older say to themselves, why do I need to wait till I'm like senior citizen age to not care if
Yeah.
someone likes me or not? Why do we have to wait that long to get to that point, as opposed to just saying, it's not just saying like bump everyone. It's like more like I love myself and where I am and where I'm going. And I love myself enough, even if that person in front of me doesn't feel the same way, because I know I'm okay.
Yes. Yes. That recognition, that alignment, being o and giving folks space, and I'm like, recognize, like, I'm not everybody's for me, so why should I expect me to be for everybody else, you know?
It, it
Um,
it's very freeing.
it's so liberating. And again, I am work in progress. This is freshly loading. You know, these moments pop up and then I have to work myself through the psychology of, okay, what's going on? Why did I feel this way? The tools that I have to try to manage through it feel like I have them now, but it's still, I always say it's like we've operated like this for 40 plus years. So of course, when you get a new operating system and principle and way of being is going to take time to undo. And so I think, kind of underlining that is just be kind to yourself in the journey as we kind of start to unlearn some of these old habits and patterns. But the more you do it, the more practice. We always talk to my kids about practice makes progress. And so, yeah, practice makes progress.
That's all you can do.
Yeah.
All you can do is all you can do. And at the same time, like you said before, you know, the thing I take away from that too is just like, listen, you are your own best friend because you deal with yourself, your thoughts, your words, your actions 24/7, 365 days of the year for 40 plus years. And yet you still hang out with you. So you must be pretty dope to be hanging out with yourself.
Yup. I like that. I like that.
So I really appreciate how you transitioned to that and seeing that sort of growth because I would imagine too, really acknowledging if you hadn't made those changes,
Hmm.
what could have led down the pipeline if you did go that path. So my question is, what do you think it would have cost you to keep going the same way you had been going before?
Yeah. I mean, these feel fairly large and existential, but cost me my happiness and my peace if I had kept living so much for other people and other definitions of success and hadn't aligned. That feels so grinding when you're not living in alignment with your current set of values and priorities and centering your needs. I think it would have cost me, to a certain extent, a depth in relationship with my kids.
Mm, how so?
I was present. I mean, my notion of motherhood has always been to just kind of be there, all the things, like, pour in. Um, and there were times where I was physically present, but not mentally
Hmm.
present because I was dealing with my own stuff with, like, lodged stress in my bodies and being disconnected from myself. Um, and I don't know if I would have had the depth and emotional kind of openness to build, like, the intentional relationships that I'm now cultivating with my kids because I was living on autopilot
Hmm.
and I was in a survival, to a certain extent, fight or flight for prolonged periods because it was just put your head down, grind it out, do all the things, navigate, make sure your team's okay, make sure you're putting all the pieces into place. And if I hadn't had that pause and that reframe, I think it could have cost me those moments and those connections
I
with my
understand.
kids and other people who I care about.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So when you look at things now,
Mhm.
glad that you didn't keep going that same path. You changed and took a different direction. What are some of the beliefs, some of the habits or rhythms for you that now have become non-negotiable for you?
Yeah. I think a core belief or principle is this non-attachment to the outcome and acceptance and surrender. That there are things that are happening beyond my control. We talked about like the control orientation I had to go towards certain goals. There is a way in which things shake out that I cannot even imagine. Um, so that understanding is really important to me and anchors me in times where I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This feels really hard. I'm like, trust, accept, surrender. And then on the non-attachment piece, there are still, setting sights on what I want for my life or things that I'm hoping for, um, and looking to attract, but knowing that I'm not attached to a positive or neutral or negative outcome, just being like present. So, talk about being present, just being present in the moment and seeing where it's going and being able to meet the situation in the moment is something that I'm really working on. And I think, are important beliefs. I think the belief of, as you were talking about, self-care is not selfish, that I have to prioritize my own needs. I am a better human because of that, and that allows me to shine my light and give and be in community with others, in service of others, and connect and go with my coaching clients, whoever, if I'm able to really fill my cup and center what I need. Uh, and some tools and practices. So, um, I like to get up in the morning and walk. That's a very grounding experience. I think we talked about that. Walking in nature, moving my body, having the meditative space for me to just clear my head. I don't really walk with music or podcast or anything. It's normally just me and my thoughts. Um, Being outside, which fills me, has been a very grounding practice. Um, Creating space for intentional stillness and slowness. Work with my clients a lot on just creating room to slow down and to pause, the power of just pausing. Now, that can look like 30 seconds of a couple deep breaths just to say, whew, what's going on? How am I feeling? Where is it in my body? What emotions coming up to get more present and then moving from there. But I do meditate in the morning, and I sometimes hesitate to say meditation because sometimes folks have this image of like, I gotta be so, have my altar and practice and routine and candles and this and that. And I'm like, nah, let's not. Whatever way is accessible to you, and how it's accessible to me is I have a app on my phone with a couple guided meditations, 5-10 minutes, turn it on while in bed, put it on, and that's something that I do in the morning and at night. If I miss it, I don't beat myself up about it, but it does give me that space to pause and breathe. And incorporating movement, so yoga is something that has been a good combination of breath, meditation, movement. Um, Salsa dancing, finding something that feels creative, like a creative outlet for me, has been a tool that's been really helpful in connection. And a lot of this is, some of it was informed. There's a book called Burnout by the Nagoski sisters, and they talk about the 7 uh, science-based evidence-based ways to manage the stress cycle.
Hmm,
And so it's like connection, creativity, crying, movement, breath. Those are practices that I'm intentional about incorporating into my life because I do think it helps me stay in touch with my emotions and unlock the stress such that I can be more free in terms of how I move. So those are a couple of things that are supportive to me in this season.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
It's always one of those things where finding what works for you that you can do consistently, it really makes a difference. And I think at the same time, one of the things I think you highlighted that was important to note too was you gave yourself grace if you missed a day. A lot of times people have this all or nothing type of attitude. It's like either I do this 100%, 100% of the time, or it makes no sense for me to do it at all. Where I would say, even if you were like 80% good at meditation, consistent, doing the app when you wake up, that's much better than not doing it at all. And so I really hope people can take note from what you shared, Nikki, on that one because yeah, like we should be more accepting, graceful, forgiving of ourselves because we're human. We're not perfect. We're not going to get it right 100% of the time,
Yeah.
but we can still try again the next day.
Yep.
You don't tell your kids when they fall the first time they walk up. I guess that's it for you. You might as well find your way crawling your way through life now because I'm not going to
Yeah.
invest any more in you walking.
Exactly, exactly. I often tell folks is like, how would you talk to somebody who you love, your child, a friend, or something like, yes, exactly. You would give that encouraging message, give them all the grace and compassion in the world, and help them build up over time. Apply that same message to yourself. So I appreciate that. It's so true. And then the concept you were talking about of like the binary thinking of like either or. I think folks who are very, you know, eye achieving, you see one way or another, how can you expand the options? Like, there's more ways in which this could shake out. And so, yeah, that's important to relieve yourself of the black and white thinking for sure.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So when we think about now, Nikki, where's Nikki now? Um, what does thriving look like for you now?
Mm. Peace. Peace in my soul and my mind and my spirit. And just being able to like maintain that as best as possible. I think thriving looks like having deep, meaningful connections with people who I care about, I'm in community with. It can be partners, kids, family, people I'm working with and supporting in this journey. Um, having an abundance of that feels like a way in which I'm thriving. And then the third would be sovereignty and freedom. Just making feeling as if I have the agency to define what matters to me, clear things that are not aligning, make choices that are liberating myself from my old thoughts, from how other folks define what success looks like at this age, uh, sovereignty to make choices that may feel frivolous or dumb or imprudent, whatever adjective, judgment that comes in, like, no, that felt in alignment with me because I know what felt good in my body and I was gonna make that choice, and I have the sovereignty to be unshackled from these deep-rooted expectations and beliefs, and that feels like thriving to me. Yeah.
I like it. This has been really helpful, Nikki. And I'm sure it's been helpful for a lot of people really taking your words into account and really reflecting on themselves to think about these things. So I would love to get your input here. If someone listening to our conversation right now is feeling like they're quietly drifting or even burning out in midlife, what do you want them to hear from you right now?
Yeah. You have the power to re-examine your life and make intentional choices that will support your overall well-being and thriving. And you can gift yourself a moment to pause and be still and to really slow down and kind of just stop the momentum in a way that allows you to really examine. And like you can do that at any given moment. Um, and you are held. There is and not alone at all. There are so many folks, again, on the outside, things look a certain way. Oftentimes we're looking at like social media feeds or who's doing what. Like, all of that is does not show the depth of the human experience. And so do not compare. You are not, as somebody who has gone through, burnout, divorce, making it through, figuring out, redefining paths, like you are not alone. And you are held and supported. And just reach out to anybody, a friend, a coach, a partner who can support you. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Nikki, I think this has been a really great conversation we've had thus far. And I'm sure that's the case for people listening in. If there are people that resonate with what you just share with us on this conversation and want to follow you and your work and what you're currently doing at this point in season in your life, where's the best place they can connect with you?
Yeah, so I'm most active on LinkedIn. You can find me at Nikki J-E Turner, so Nikki J-E Turner on LinkedIn. My website is the c3impact.com. And so post in there. And I don't know if we can link this in show notes, but my newsletter, I have a newsletter called the Reimagine Path where I'm um, speaking about life experiences that I've done, clients who I'm seeing who are doing exactly this, what you're doing, Phil, which I so appreciate you modeling of how can I reimagine what life looks like at any juncture and how do I figure
Absolutely.
out a path forward that is aligned with what really matters. So I can share out the newsletter link as well.
Absolutely. We'll make sure to include all that in the show notes here for sure for everyone. So, Nikki, this was great. I really appreciate your steadiness and honesty in this conversation. These reflections, I believe, help people feel less alone in a time that often they feel quiet and what they feel is unspoken. And so, for everyone listening in, hope this serves as a reminder for everyone that midlife is not a problem to fix. It's more of a season to better understand and to be more aware. And if something today that Nikki shared resonated with you, reflect on it. Don't rush into action. Just sit with it. If you need to go outside, take a walk, not with music, not with a podcast, even though it's appreciative if you listen to mine, but even that, if you just have your own thoughts to think about and reflect on, hey, what was that one thing that Nikki shared with me that really resonated, that made a lot of sense in my life right now, that I could apply to my life today to not only provide a better today, but hopefully also a better tomorrow. I think that's so important because I think that is where real change begins, not with urgency, but with more awareness, more grace, more love, more self care. And so, this has been a great episode here. To learn more about Life After 40, feel free to go to our website at lifeafter40.com. You're also welcome to connect with me at philipblackett.com. And as a friendly reminder, as we conclude, midlife is worth living and worth living well. Thank you so much, Nikki, for joining us on this conversation. Thank you, everyone listening in and watching, for spending time with us. This has been
Thank
Life After
you.
40 Conversations with Philip Blackett, and I'll see you in the next conversation.
Appreciate you, Philip. Bye.
I
Thank you.
appreciate you as well. Thank you.